that he's feeling my pain. No, first off, you've got to laugh at the Volpe labrum tear.
Isn't this the second time this year that they have had some sort of random injury for somebody? Or is that another team I'm trying to think of? But like, what is it? Your coaching staff, your medical staff, that they haven't been able to diagnose this for months. And furthermore, if it is a feigned injury, why wouldn't you have done it a month and a half ago? Like, what more did you need?
They're so loyal that they can't.
My point. Like, it's ridiculous. You could have done it right after the trade deadline. I'm the biggest Yankee homer alive.
No, he's not.
Oh my God. He apparently is not paying attention very much. But you could have done it right after the trade deadline. Oh, we got Caballero here. We got, McMahon now. We got Fillings. Like, it doesn't make any sense. In your rant, I did some quick math because what you said about Anthony Volpe, you're like, well, he's got 19 home runs. And I joked around this year. I feel like the Yankees have more sub 240 home runs than any teams in baseball. It's like sub 240 hitters with home runs. So I did some quick math. The Yankees have 92 home runs from sub 240 hitters. That's Volpe, that is Ben Rice, that's Jazz Chisholm, and Austin Wells, right? Do you want to take a guess at how many strikeouts those four guys have? 470. That's almost 5 strikeouts for every 1 home run those dudes hit. So you want to sit here and talk to me about how the pop that they have. 5 strikeouts. 5. There's not even a productive at bat there. There's not even a move or runner over. There's not even a sacrifice fly. There's 5 strikeouts for every 1 ball that leaves the ballpark. And I would guarantee you, of those 92 home runs, I'd say at least 15%, let's go 9 to 14 home runs, came when they're up 8-2 already anyway. Useless home runs hit.
Useless.
No value.
But this team last year was never making the World Series if they didn't hit a couple of home runs. It
wasn't for Giancarlo Stanton
and
Soto. They're not they don't beat Kansas City. Like, that's the reality. And they certainly don't beat Cleveland. So, yeah, take my Yankee homer. Look, you're right. I will tell you this much, Ariel. It's not even them losing in the playoffs. They have to miss the playoffs if we want anything to change. Because
not win a series,
or not win a game in the series. That's it, right? Get knocked out in 2 games and it'd be over with. But the crazy part is like when you talk about like teams that can get hot in the postseason, right? Teams that can make a run. The most critical part of doing that outside of clutch hitting is your bullpen. This is literally the worst part of this team right now. It is literally the worst thing about this team right now is their bullpen. And it's almost to a point, Ariel, like Boone doesn't know what to do, and I can't even blame him for mismanaging the bullpen because they all suck.
They all suck.
They all suck. So it doesn't matter who it's like back in April and May, we could be like, stop going to get Devin Williams. Stop going to get Williams.
Which, by the way, he kept going to Devin Williams.
He kept going to Devin Williams. But, now at this point, it's like, it doesn't matter who you get. Someone's going to get rocked. Someone's giving up, It's Yankees crash outs on my Christmas.
Sean Michael, you're going to be so upset. And I actually do hope that the Tigers do well because I like the Tigers. Yes. But just for Sean Michael's purposes, I'm going to laugh if they lose because I feel like Sean's going to have a meltdown.
Look, I still.
Who's the best team in the American League?
There is no best team in the American League. It's just who can survive.
Right. It's going to be who gets hot at the right time, whose pitching is better, who might get hot. I don't know. There is not a team in the American League. Who, honestly, the best bet the National League to win the World Series.
Yeah. I would tell you this much too. My futures on the Phillies and the Mets to win the World Series, I feel pretty good about. Because when you put those odds up before, again, here's the other problem that you were talking about with the Yankees and their odds pricing. The Dodgers are not priced accurately. They are not $2 and $3 better than everybody else, right? That's the issue. They're not $2.20 better than the Phillies. They're not. They're just flat out not better a team, right? Even with Snell and Glass now back and everybody, they are not $2 better. Their bullpen is concerning. But they have been such a favorite all year long to move them back now only creates more liability for the books for the people who bet on them to win the World Series. So to your point, Ariel, the pricing for all of these is so messed up right now. But to me, the best money is the Phillies and the Mets to win the whole thing. I wish I could believe the Padres could get past the Dodgers, but eventually they'll kind of let me down and choke. The Cubs don't have the pitching, and I think their hitting will be suspect against good pitching. So for me, it leaves.
But I think that anyone who comes out of the National League is still better than anyone out of the AL.
Of course. Of course.
If you could get the minus 120 National League over the American League for World Series, go get it. Like, if you really want to let your put money down on something that you don't care, obviously people like to sit on a plus something price. But at this rate, the value sucked out of most teams that have any. Like Seattle and San Diego and Houston, I guess, are teams that have some value to me. But if you don't trust any of those teams, then I think whoever comes out of the National League is the winner.
The Padres' only saving grace is that they can hit on the road and score on the road. But dear Lord, who bet on the Padres last night and watched them have a 1-0 lead and blow it? Me, that guy. So,
well, speaking of the Padres,
yeah,
you do like them tonight.
I do. I mean, look, this is more of a fade of anything else because Randy Vasquez is not really entirely trustworthy. But have you seen McCade Brown? Do you know who McCade Brown is? Because you have to do a little research to find out who McCade Brown is. He's the Rockies starting pitcher. He was called up 2 weeks ago, straight from Double-A. And this just in, he's not a major league pitcher. A major league pitcher. Has given up at least 3 runs in all of his starts, has never lasted past 4 innings in any single one of them. And this is not a guy right now that actually should be pitching in the major leagues. And if he was on any other team, any other roster, even pick the White Sox, the second worst record in baseball, he's probably not pitching in the majors. But because it's the Rockies and they are just in free fall and trying to do anything right now, he's up here getting some major league experience for next year or spring training or whatever. But this is not a major league pitcher. Oh God! If the Padres bats are putrid at home, Ariel, like I just and they are making my over 86 wins, making me sweat it for the final 2 weeks. Like they have to keep dumping games like last night when they're up 1-0 and they couldn't push another stink and run across, and their bullpen, of course, blows it and loses 2-1. What a kick in the nuts that was. But you know, there are not many times I would advocate laying 1.5 with the home team, but given who the Padres are starting. And the Rockies are starting and the Rockies bullpen. This to me feels like enough here to go lay the 1.5 because if they don't absolutely beat this team, it says a lot about the Padres. And by the way, every single game this year between the Padres and Rockies has gotten 1 of 2 results. Padres have covered 1.5, or the Rockies have won outright. So if you don't like Padres 1.5, bet the Rockies money line because the Padres are not winning this game by just 1 run. They're either blowing them out or they're losing. Period. So. Take that for what it's worth.
All or nothing with the Padres. Thursday Night Football. I haven't even touched Thursday Night Football yet. We actually both agree on Austin Eckler. I gave you the better number. I know you sent me 23.5, which is where it is on a lot of books, but I actually saw 20.5 over at BetMGM around minus 130, minus 140. Why are you also agreeing with Eckler?
Well, now I agree with you just because you said it, because you know I have to check with you on every freaking prop I ever make. I'm like, Ariel's this good.
Love it.
This is here simply because he got over this number last week with 3 receptions, 30 yards, and 3 targets. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I definitely lean the over here. New pass rush for the Packers. I'm not going to be surprised to see Jaden Daniels have to dump the ball off quickly, or the whole game plan for Cliff Kingsbury is to be catch Green Bay in over pursuit with screen plays that are designed to go to Eckler. The Packers gave up 14 catches to running back last week against the Lions. And Eckler has averaged over 10 yards per catch on 44 catches in his time in D.C. So we go Eckler over his receiving yards here.
For the quarterback, Jordan Love, I find it very interesting and also intriguing because over 5.5 rushing yards against a run D in the Commanders that wasn't good last year. I kind of was looking at Josh Jacobs today, but the number just feels a little bit too high for me on Jacobs. Against bad run Ds last year, Jacobs only went over in 2 of 7 games. Jordan Love going over his rushing yards. How come a quarterback should be a little bit more mobile tonight?
Well, look, when I look at quarterback, like I don't usually get involved with guys like Lamar and Josh Allen and rushing props for quarterbacks because there's just, the numbers get out of control. I tend to like to take quarterback rushing props where I can get it all in one carry if I need it, right? That's all it takes is 1 rush, and typically he can get there, and that's what this number kind of represents. I think one that the Commanders play a lot more man coverage. That's Dan Quinn, right? That's his style. And they were top 8 in man coverage last week. And so with man coverage and guys covering downfield, there's not a guy in the middle of the field spying somebody, so he should have lanes to run. I think we're going to see a lot more dropbacks in this game than we saw from Jordan Love last week because they had the lead for a better part of the game. They didn't have to, throw with any semblance of regularness. That's not a word. With any semblance of regularity because they were controlling the game. I would also add this, and this is part of the reason why I like the over in the game too. I think both of these defenses last week were very bend, don't break. The Lions and Giants were combined 1 for 6 in the red zone. What does that tell you? That means the other teams got to the red zone and failed. It means they can move the ball between the 20s and do it with some success, even though they couldn't convert and turn it into points. So on the macro level, their defenses look like they played really well. When you peel it back a little bit, they didn't really stop them that much. The other team's offenses stopped themselves in the red zone. So the score looks bigger than what it is. I bring that to light to say that Jordan Love's going to be able to move the ball on this Commanders defense and get up and down the field with them with regularity and with more throwing. I think that presents more opportunities for him to take off and run against an aggressive blitzing, because that's how Dan Quinn does it, right? He'll play man coverage and blitz. That's kind of the way his defense is run. I've covered him here in Atlanta. He's not shy about it. He's not a high blitz rate guy, but when he does it, he does it. And that's enough for us to be able to get home here with Jordan Love going over 5.5 rushing yards.
In regards to Casbro 93's question about Jaden Daniels over his rushing yards, I have no interest in it. The Packers really good up front, and they were top 10 against mobile quarterbacks last year. It would not be the strength for me that I would want to attack on Green Bay. I think Washington on their end, you want to attack their pass rush, but the secondary for Green Bay would be more so where I'd want to attack.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I can't say, like, Green Bay was pretty good last year. Like, Green Bay, I'm looking at my stats right now.
You know what problem is on? I've seen a lot of people on this for this game is Debo over 4.5 receptions.
Green Bay allowed the 4th least receiving yards per game to wide receivers last year. 8th least last week. It's really pass catching backs that Green Bay struggles against, and like short passes, like tight ends, running backs. It's the short passes that really get Green Bay middle of the field. Not so much, I guess, their corners and their defensive backs in general. Washington, their corners were definitely better. Washington least receptions allowed to running backs, 5th least receptions allowed to tight ends, and receiving yards allowed to tight ends. So they were good against tight ends and running backs, but yeah, I would say attack Washington's run D. And I think the over, for example, now I know Shawn Michaels says he doesn't really trust the offenses, but the defenses might be tired on this short week, especially the Commanders on the road on a short week.
Well, yeah, I tend to agree.
Not that the Giants were that daunting of an offense.
Really all that taxing. But the other prop I looked at and studied, as I just said, and I'm curious your thoughts. I don't know if you heard me a moment ago. Debo over 4.5 receptions. He had 10 targets last week. He got 7 receptions on 10 targets. Now, obviously, McLaren is going to start to get worked more into the offense, and I think he will. But am I incorrect in thinking that Debo is the best athlete on the field? Other than Micah Parsons, Debo is the best athlete on the field, right? Like,
I hate betting wide receivers for the sole purpose of having to choose between Debo and Scary Terry.
Right, but here's the thing. When you talk about that short shovel pass, that's not really a pass, BS, that counts as a pass and it counts as a reception, is Debo. And everything underneath for him is there. And he ran a ton of routes out of the slot last week, so the underneath stuff is going to be there. I don't need him to get yards. I just need him to get the ball in his hands, which is what I think Cliff Kingsbury is going to do no matter how he does it. So I think the short passing game to Debo tonight is a viable look. It's just when I tend to see a lot of the, places I do my research and other people who are on the things, I'm like, okay, everybody's on this. I can't really get on it because it's not that I have a desire to be original, because I'm not, but just kind of, it's one of those things where you see everybody on one side, you're like, oh, okay, nobody's actually going the other way on this thing. And now I get nervous.
Well, I'm a little nervous for this college football game tonight because NC State, Wake Forest, huge game for the Carolinas. I have a friend who's a radio host down there. He's going a week to cover it. I know for the Carolinas what this means, especially because the NC State Wolfpack, they have always felt like the rankings in football schools in North Carolina was like NC State for a while was so good. UNC and Duke were more the basketball schools, and NC State was like really good for a bit compared to the other two. UNC, NC State always a rival. Duke, meh. But then Wake Forest all of a sudden has like always, and ever since I was there 10 years ago, Wake Forest is always in games for in-state rivals, whether they were terrible or they were like, I remember being at the NC State game with my ex-boyfriend. It was Wake and NC State. Wake was like one of the worst teams in college football. And they ended up upsetting NC State, who was, I think, ranked at the time. So, thoughts on this game between NC State and Wake Forest?
Well, here's something of note that Jake Dickert is in his first season in head coach. When you talk about Wake Forest, they were a different offense then. They were a different, mentality and philosophy on the offensive side. So I don't really know how good the Wake offense is going to be. Remember, this is a Wake team that only managed 10 points against Kennesaw State. Was one of the worst teams in FBS last year. So not a good sign. That doesn't mean that they can't get right and turn this thing around, right? Like that's, they did score 42 points in week 2 against Western Carolina. So maybe things are starting to figure their way out. The problem I have with NC State here, I like CJ Bailey a lot. I think he's a good quarterback. I am still sour at NC State over my week 1 team total of 27.5 and it landing on 20, whatever. What did they score first week against East Carolina? That stupid game when they scored 24, but left about 14 points on the field between penalties in the red zone, missed field goals and everything else. Like it was just a complete bleep show offensively, full of mistakes for the Wolfpack. They seem to have righted it last week. They were down by, I think, 21 to UVA. I had UVA plus 2.5 last week and lost that one. But so I trust the NC State offense here. What I don't know is how good is their defense, because East Carolina gave them fits that entire game, offense or defensively. And so I would tend to lean on Wake Forest plus the points. But this is a game area that I feel like is worth cutting in half too as well. If NC State is in this, is going to blow them out, it's going to happen early. They're going to click right away. Everything's going to look good. Wake Forest defense won't be able to keep up, and they're going to put points up early. But I don't know if there's a game script where I can see Wake getting down early and then charging back. But I can see where Wake, takes advantage of NC State sloppiness early. Game is tight, has a short lead maybe at half, or is only down by a field goal, and then possibly NC State pulls away later. Like I think that's a more viable game script here. So if you want to take Wake, I'd probably, lean to a first half number because, my old philosophy. If they ain't covering early, they probably ain't covering late. I feel that kind of way about Wake Forest right now. If their offense is clicking and they're in this thing, and the 42 points from last week is more of what they are than the 10 points from first week, then yeah, I think NC State is very susceptible to losing this game outright. NC State should be the better team, and they should, if it makes sense to say it this way, they should easily cover this number because of the level of talent that they have over Wake Forest, who's only returning 5 starters on offense, doesn't it? As a new quarterback and a new head coach. But they are a defense that last year that lacked. So they got to stay in it early if they want to stay in the full game, I guess, if that's, makes sense.
Early lines that caught your eye for college football slate this week?
Missed the best of the number on Florida, still taking them. Like, here's the thing, Ariel. If the idiot doesn't spit on the South Florida player, okay, and Florida wins that game 16-15, right? The field goal never happens. Florida's still ranked, and this line opens up at LSU 6.5. And we're talking about a whole different conversation between these two teams, right? Because nobody really cares at the end of the day that they struggled. It didn't. If Clemson would have lost to Troy, then we have a different line here. They beat Troy, even though it was a slow game. They didn't do anything. They're still a 3.5 point favorite on the road. So Florida is going to make the card for me. I'll tell you the other 2 bets I love the most. I love A&M this week. Kelly disagrees with me. She hates A&M. She thinks they're paper tigers. She knows they're going to fall apart. She may be right, but if they're going to make a coming out party statement, it's here. Split a unit. A&M plus 6.5. Put some on the money line as well. They might be able to upset Notre Dame. Unless Jeremiah Love goes off, that's the only way Notre Dame controls this game. So I think they can get it. Their quarterback read is going to be very good, I think. So I like A&M. East Carolina, minus 7.5 at Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina is awful. They only scored 13 points at home, only one touchdown against Charleston Southern, and it didn't come until the fourth quarter. Coastal Carolina may be the worst team in FCS. That's how bad they are. I know it's a rivalry game. I have no reservations about laying 7.5 with East Carolina here. Couple other things that I'm looking at. I mean, Ariel, I got some real DGen specials for you if you really want.
We love DGen specials. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, and these are when you're about 6 to 8 cocktails deep and we have hit 9 o'clock and you realize your 3:30 bet is lost, your 7:30 bet is losing, and you want to catch up. Here's what you do. You go to your little betting app and you look at Stanford against Boston College. Okay. Now, Boston College lost a gut punch game last week at Michigan State on the road, flew back to Chestnut Hill. Now they're flying all the way out to Stanford to play a Stanford team. Ariel, you know Stanford's last home game? November 16th of last year. They haven't played a game there in 11 months.
That's crazy.
Now, it's not like Stanford is the best home field advantage here, but I like the under there, and 12.5 is a lot for BC to lay on the road. I like their quarterback, but for me in this spot,
Pete Thamel just announced Boston College will be without, now we get the alert.
Defensive starters.
Yeah, they're going to be without their defensive starters, cornerback Amari Jackson, defensive tackle Owen Stadmeyer.
Oh, let's go DGen special. Come on, big trees. Here we go.
They're gone.
And then the other one is also late. This is just, Ariel, I think you would understand this. Comparative spread analysis here where something tells you that the number is off. Arizona State, Texas State. Go back to last year, right? These two teams played early in the year. I think it was week 2. And they played at Texas State. Now, Arizona State made the college football playoff. People don't remember this. Arizona State closed as a 2.5-point underdog at Texas State in that game. And they won it by 7. They closed as an underdog to a group of 5 school. They are now a 16.5, 17-point favorite a year later. Way overvalued spread on Arizona State. I know they're coming off a loss last week. That is an insane jump. 17-plus points is an insane number jump. And by the way, last year in the matchup between these two teams, you know who led the team in rushing? Cam Scatabo. You know who led the team in receiving that game? Cam Scatabo. You know who's not playing for Arizona State this year?
Cam Scatabo.
Tell him. Texas State, baby. Give me the Bobcats.
Oh, don't do that again. Don't do that. Your girlfriend will not like that. Maybe she does. Maybe she does. I don't know. Maybe that's where you got it from.
Yeah, exactly.
In the NFL this weekend, you live in Atlanta. I hate to do this to myself the same way you go back to the Braves all the time. I hate that I kind of like the Falcons again this week against the Vikings. And I lost on the 2.5 in week 1.
So did I.
So I'm a little nervous, but I'm not fully buying the Vikes just yet.
I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to be very plain about this. When you bet the Falcons this year, understand something. Their coaching staff is highly suspect. That's what is going to cost them games. It's not a talent level because I think Penix is going to be really good. They certainly have the dogs on offense and the players, and their defense is going to be better. Their coaching staff is going to drive you up a wall with some really bad, questionable decisions. And I like Raheem Morris. I know him well. We have a great relationship, but they are suspect, and so is Zach Robinson. Watch what's going to happen this year because they're running way too much pistol because they refuse to put Michael Penix under center. And how many 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s are they going to miss this year because they're doing that stupid crap where the quarterback is 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and the running back is 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and we want to hand it off on a 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. Stupid. The coaching is going to burn them. 2 more quick notes on college, by the way, since you mentioned Georgia. Tech and Tennessee are the 2 dogs that everybody loves this week. I feel like they're going to be square. I'm staying off both the games. I wouldn't bet the favorites. I won't bet Georgia, and I'm certainly not betting Clemson. But I like the comment that just came in. I should be 6 beer mugs
We
deep.
love AOD.
Yeah. I won't bet them the favorites, but don't be surprised if both Georgia and Clemson win handily. And I would tell you, too, I don't think the spread matters in either game. The dog, if you're going to play the dog, take them on the money line. Do it. Because I don't, for it to land on 3 in either one of those games, I think is a slimmer possibility than anything else. The favorite's going to win and win handily, or the dog's going to win outright.
I know Georgia, Tennessee is like game of the week this week.
CT Betts is on Georgia, and he fired that early.
Who did?
CT Betts.
Oh,
Monday.
So that's going to be the detrimental game to CT Betts' health. Yeah. I'll just remember that in the group chat when I'm not paying attention Saturday. It's like Saturdays are my days where now I'm going to be at street lacrosse for Premier Lacrosse on Saturday from 2 to 5. They're doing this street lacrosse thing. It's going to be kind of cool, like to see everyone just playing lacrosse.
I called lacrosse for 8 years, right?
You did?
I called professional lacrosse in the indoor league and the outdoor league for 8 years. Before the PLL existed. I called
you should bet PLL with us.
For the NLL and the MLL when it was the outdoor league. Yeah.
Huh. Well, now the Women's Lacrosse League is launching its first full season next summer.
I covered lax for 10 years.
Wow. That's cool. Did the Suns play?
No.
Did you play?
We're short in Italian. It's not really our thing.
But how'd you get into reffing lacrosse?
Oh, not reffing, calling.
Oh, coaching.
No, calling it. Like I call it.
Calling play-by-play.
Yeah, doing play-by-play for lacrosse.
Oh.
So I went to Loyola. It's a big lacrosse school.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I grew up in Long Island. There's a lot of lacrosse players. People
in the chat are asking you about K-State since you brought up Kelly in Vegas.
That's probably the right side. But I find them wholly untrustworthy. Look, can I tell you something else on Friday? I kind of like Houston a lot. Colorado's down to their 3rd string quarterback, and I think Houston's under the radar. That's the Friday night play for me. I'd lay the 4.5 with Houston.
Okay. Mark Zinno just gave us a ton of action, but his main card for tonight is right here. Austin Eckler, over 20.5 receiving yards. Jordan Love, over 5.5 rushing yards. And the Padres, -1.5. Mark Zinno, thanks so much for joining the show today. Good luck with those bets.
Love you, Bubs. Thanks. We'll do it again soon. Ciao.
Obviously.